Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Oh, listen, do you hear that? It's the sound of the fiddle. And that is music to your successful ears. If you're somebody in the real estate industry and looking to up your game, this guy has devised an amazing real estate coaching system to increase your business, your productivity. It's been proven. And where's the fiddle reference? I'm going to tell you, it's Mike Fiddler. And he's with us right now. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Steve. How are you?
Fantastic. And your story is just an amazing one. You had 6 months of real estate experience, basically no money in the bank. You came up with some systems. I mean, you're completely green at this point, but saw the advantages or the way to find your way. And in a very short period of time, you were one of the most 10 successful agents in a company of over 2,000. I don't know many people that do that. And now you've taken what you've learned there over the years and you coach people to succeed in real estate. I think that's fantastic. How long have you been doing this?
Oh, I've been coaching on and off now I've had my own company for 10 years. I was actually doing it before that. I was doing it for another big independent company, but went out on my own and seems to be a need for it. So it's worked out well.
I am seeing more and more people getting into real estate, getting their license. I was in a group of people last night. I knew that one was definitely a real estate agent and others were involved in the industry, be it through mortgages or whatever. Then another gentleman who I had no idea he's pivoting into real estate. And this is what we were talking about last night. So for those who say, yeah, the market's not good, low inventory, I think you would agree, don't listen to what they're saying because it's not true.
Yeah, I would definitely say don't listen. Everybody that gets in pretty much as a hobby in the beginning. It's a little side gig, make a little side money. And then those that are really kind of born into it, they expand and they grow. And that's where our time management stuff comes in, because in the beginning, they might not have as much time to work with. They might be working a full-time job or even a part-time job, and they're just trying to get their feet wet and see whether or not, is this really for me? That's where the time management starts.
And that's where what I was referencing before, that's what I'm seeing right now. A lot of people that are kind of dipping their toe into the real estate water. Let's see how this goes. Let me make a little bit of money and then see if this is right for me. So when you coach, it could be for well-established salespeople, or it could be the toe dippers. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I have both. I have some big producers that I coach, and I've also got some people that have, just recently got their license, and now they're looking, okay, where do I start? It's almost fun because the people that are, where do I start? They don't have any bad habits yet. I don't have to break them of any of the bad habits that they've formed. I can just start from the beginning and really help them to grow quickly.
Let's start with one of your systems for the toe dipper. They just, got a license recently, getting a little bit of traction, word of mouth. It's starting to kick up a little bit. How do we time manage? How do we work that? Just any basic tips that you could provide?
I think that would probably start with the business plan. I've seen a lot of brokers that have these very intricate and long-winded business plans. And I learned from somebody who taught me that the shorter the plan is, the better. And my business plan is basically one page. And in that one page, it just takes into account what they need to make, what they want to make as far as profit, if they're looking to take any trips, right? We build all of that in there. And we come out with basically one number. And that one number is, how many appointments do you need to attend on a weekly basis in order to hit that goal? I've been kind of fortunate that I've been able to track a lot of good producers, so I know what the hourly numbers should be.
Do you find that a lot of people that aren't focusing on it as their main bread and butter don't have a direction? They just figure, let me just kind of wing this. But even for them, they need to have a solid plan and direction for what they want to do.
Yeah, the people that don't have any kind of direction very seldom go anywhere. It's like they wait. I heard it put really well when somebody said that if you don't have a plan, you're more dependent on the market. The market will determine whether or not you're successful. But if you do have a plan, and that's where the producers come in, then you become basically market proof. It doesn't matter whether the market's good or
Mm.
bad, you'll always find a way to adapt and make the money you need to make.
You find a lot of people use that as an excuse. Yeah, market's not good. I don't know what's going on right now.
All the time. Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
And I just don't, and you and I have talked about this a little bit. I'm not a believer right now that we have a lack of inventory. I'm a believer that we have a lack of homes in MLS, but MLS is just a part of what's out there. You can do the numbers any way you want, statewide, nationwide. Basically, 4% of the homes in MLS, 4% of the population of homes actually sold. That doesn't sound like a lack of inventory to me. That sounds like a lack of MLS listings. If that's what you depend on, then you will always say the market's slow. Top producers are not saying that because
Mm.
that's not what they depend on.
I want to get back to some of the other systems, but based on what we're talking about right now, do you find now that some homeowners are putting their place up for sale and putting it at a high number just to see if they can sell it at that number? And if they do, all right, you can always say no, but at that point they're thinking, let's see if we can get that. Do you find that that's going on a lot now?
All the time. Happens every spring, by the way.
Okay.
There are always people that come on the market just to see, what can I do? What can I get? Typically, the top producers ask a set of questions to determine whether or not this is somebody who's just kicking the tires or they really need to move. And, I've said this before with students. I can't back this up. I think I'm being conservative when I say about 90% of the money that's made in real estate is made by the top 10% of the agents. Now, that's not the bad news. The bad news is that means that 90% of the agents are fighting over the 10% that the top producers don't want to deal with. So when a top producer asks questions and they say, okay, this is not somebody I can help to move, they're just kicking the tires. And I'm not going to invest my time and my money and everything else if they're not serious. So they'll let it go. They'll walk away from that appointment. And then part of that 90%, the people that are just kicking the tires themselves, they'll pick up on that and think, oh, I got a hot lead. Yeah, it's not.
Wow. And so it seems like it's all about qualifying the seller.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. Yeah. Buyers too. Same thing. If you're working the buyer side, gotta ask enough questions. I was taught to ask the question, do you want a list? And over the time that I spent really coaching, I learned something. People don't want a list. They want to move. Maybe, maybe they've got an issue where they got to get closer to work, or maybe they've got an issue where they want to get closer to the in-laws because they have newborns and they want, the built-in babysitter mode. So they want to move in closer. People want to move, but they don't want to list. Nobody wants to list their house. Who wants to pack up all the stuff you've put together over the years so that you can move down the street? Yeah, that's not what happens. But all of a sudden somebody will say, we should move. Maybe we need a bigger house. Maybe it's time to downsize. Maybe now that the kids have gone, they're out in college or they've moved on. Maybe it's time to. People don't want to list, but they do want to move. And you got to be able to figure out the difference when you're asking the questions. So
when you say list, obviously listed for sale MLS, what's the aversion to that?
Okay, so let me correct one thing, and I'm not trying to correct in a way, but when you say MLS, I'm not a believer in that. Okay. I'm a believer in, I'll give you an example. When I was listing and selling all the time, I knew who were the buyer agents that tended to show and sell my listings. I knew who they were. And I figured out, took a while, that most top producers don't sell most of their own inventory. Their job is to get it sold, not necessarily be the agent that does the selling. So when you think about putting a house on the market, what do most agents do? They put it in MLS, they put up a sign, they promise an open house, they put up a lockbox, they put it on their websites. All of that is passive. You're waiting for something to happen. You put up a sign, you hope somebody calls you. You put it on the web, you hope somebody calls you. It's all passive. I teach people to be proactive. I teach people to build a network of buyer agents that they call and talk to all the time about the listings that are coming up. Maybe they've got somebody who they're finishing up some landscaping and they're going to come on the beginning of June. Well, I'm already talking to these agents. So for me, MLS is just one tool, and it's usually not the one I rely on the most. And most sellers, if you think about the person who tries to sell on their own, they realize it too. People that try to sell on their own without any kind of a network, their success rate's about 8%. Mine was close to 90. And it's because of the people that I networked with. So that's what I teach. I teach students, get away from all this passive stuff. Let's get proactive. Let's get out there and actually find the people that have the buyer that's going to buy that house, because that's what your seller cares about.
Would the flow go like this, hypothetically? I'm an agent. I know you. We connected at a networking event, whatever it might be. I connected with somebody over here that is selling their house. I know that it's coming up in June. They're getting it ready. They're working on a job transfer. So I'm not even thinking about listing MLS or any of that. I'm getting on the phone. Hey, Mike, I got somebody over here. Do you have anybody that might be looking to buy their house? They're looking to sell it for, $875. It's got a great pool in the backyard, 4-bedroom, 2.5 baths, whatever. And am I making calls to Stacy over here and John over here and just working the network and just waiting for them to, reach back?
Yeah. Other than the word waiting, yeah, that's exactly what happens. But I'm not waiting. I'm kind of letting you know, if I make a call to you and I say, hey, Steve, I got this one. It's coming up in June. It's got this, got that. It's got this. I'm basically saying to you, who do you have? Who are you working with right now that's a fit? Oh, nobody? Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to go to my next one.
Okay.
And so you already know that you're not the only person I'm talking to on this. And if you do have somebody, you better get them in quick. Because if you don't, it's going to be gone.
It's either you or it's not.
Yeah.
When I make that call.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. So that's great, having that network. And it takes time to cultivate those relationships, people that you trust. I know that when I call Mike Fiddler, he's connected to buyers and he's a reasonable choice. There's a good chance that we're going to work together and we're both going to benefit, as is the buyer and the seller. I'm the real estate agent. How do I find those houses for sale? Is it a network over here where people are telling me, hey, I was on my block. The guy just put up a sign, for sale by owner, and they call me. How does that all work?
Many years ago, I was in an audience, and the guy who was the main speaker, his name was Floyd Wickman, probably one of the biggest names in real estate. And he made the statement, I don't think anybody should close less than 50 homes. Now, the year that I attended this, I'd closed 6. So when he said 50, he had my attention. And he shared some systems. And one of the things he did was he said, catch up with me over the weekend. I'll show you exactly how. I chased him all weekend. I never caught up with him. But on the plane ride home, I said to myself, I know a lot of people. And I know a lot of what they're talking about. I'm going to find 50 people that I know that'll get me one referral. Just send me one piece of business. And that's how it all started for me. I started building that first network. I used to call it my FiddleNet group. And they were all people that already knew me, already liked me, already willing to work. And I would talk to them about, that's great. Who do you know that's thinking about moving? Because I've got other agents that have buyers. I'd love to put something together for them. Who do you know? So I would network with those people. I network with my neighbors. Most people turn around and talk about, you drive by somebody and they wave. They know who you are, but they don't know you. You know, I had somebody the other day that said something to me in a group. They said, "Oh no, I know my neighbors." I said, "Really? Okay, let's talk about it. Do you know their cell number?" "Oh yeah, I got their cell number." "Okay. You know what kind of music they like?" "Huh? You know what kind of food they like?" "Yeah, you don't know them." But if you do get to know them, now they won't just wave as they drive by your house. They'll stop and want to talk with you. And that opens the door for more conversations. So that's how that whole networking thing got going.
Loosely put, it's as if you're a politician. You're getting votes. You're getting out there knowing your people, whether they're on your block, whether you go to a networking event and you're just mindful. Everybody you meet has the potential to know somebody who may know somebody who knows somebody that's going to put their house up for sale.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So you really need to, and then maybe there's a system for this when you're out and about, making sure that you get cards or whatever it is, contacts, you're continually working. Even if you're at a backyard barbecue at a friend's house, you're still working. That's what I'm getting from you. You're working.
Yeah, you're always looking for people that might know someone that's thinking about moving. You know, I look at it and say, I said, matter of fact, I was on a call this morning with a group we had, and I said it this morning. I said, last night there was a couple that was sitting down at the supper table, and you know what they were talking about? They were talking about moving. Now, here's the question. Why didn't they call you this morning?
You don't know them.
Don't know. Why
Yep.
not? Why don't you find them? My theory about it and the way I got up every morning was the same. Every morning I started the day off by saying, somebody out there needs me. They just don't know where I am, so I better go find them.
Does it, and I want to get into some other systems here, but you use the fiddle as your prop.
Yeah.
Not to get goofy and crazy, but should you have a prop or something that makes you stand out? And I'm bringing this up because you brought back a memory in my area. There's a guy who was a competitive power eater. I'm not even kidding. And his nickname was Cookie. And in all of his, he was doing real estate for a very, very long time. He's pivoted over to some other industries, but real estate is his main. And I still remember, and I still see him at networking events. Big guy, tall and big. I would run into him, and his marketing was him holding a house in his hand. And
great.
something like he'll each out a house and home or something like that.
Yeah.
That was his prop. You know, that was his why people remembered him. Without going too crazy, do you find, if you can find it, to find it and use it, whatever it may be?
Yeah, you got to have a fiddle. It doesn't have to be a fiddle.
Right. Right.
One of the guys who I used to compete with all the time, he used to laugh because we would talk and he'd go, "You're so lucky to have that last name." And I'm like, "Yeah, you wouldn't have said that when I was a kid."
Sure.
And people were just, razzing on me. But he did something. What he did was, and this was before cell phones, he put on a billboard this private number that he had. And it was huge. He broke every franchise rule in the book because it was a big number and a little logo for the company. I couldn't get that number out of my head if I tried. It's been 20 years since I've done business with him. I still can't get that number out of my head.
Yeah.
You have to be recognizable. I don't think there's any doubt. That doesn't mean that you can't do business if you're not. It
Sure.
just means you can't do a lot of business.
Right.
You can do some. You can do Grandma's house or Uncle Bob or whatever. But if you want this to be a full-time job, then you have to be recognizable. And if you're not recognizable, then you're missing out.
It's all coming down to branding in this section of our conversation. Branding yourself, making yourself stand out, no matter what it is, and be known as the real estate guy or the real estate girl. That's a selling house up. Got to go to them. Got to call them. And when I think of people in my circle that do real estate, they stand above. Those people stand above. I can name names right away. Like, if I'm looking to buy or sell, I'm calling Chris, this guy I know, because he's just, whether he's good or not, my perception is he is.
Yeah.
So then he is.
Perception is reality. That's
Absolutely.
for sure.
Absolutely. In the time that we have, can you share maybe another system that works for people?
Well, considering time management and accountability are probably two of the biggest things that people hire me for. If we talk time management, most top producers know their numbers. Most people that are in it for the hobby, they don't. And what I mean by that is I spend time with them tracking how many appointments are they going on? How many people are they meeting? How many are they writing? And they go, well, how do you figure all this out? Well, in the beginning, when we take that business plan and we say, okay, this is how many appointments you need to go on, I already know because of people I've coached in the past how long it takes for each of those appointments. So we can figure out, okay, on a particular week, if somebody that's somebody that say is part-time, but they're looking to convert into a full-time agent, and they say to me, I can only do 10 hours of real estate. Okay, here's what we're going to do in those 10 hours. We're going to attend this and this and this, and we're going to spend an hour doing some research or an hour doing some prospecting and calling the people and asking them, who do you know? So one of the biggest things that separates top producers is they know what those numbers are. They could tell you right now, we're almost at the end of April. They could tell you what they've closed. They could tell you, more importantly, how many times they went on an appointment, they didn't get it. Because those are the ones we remember. We don't remember the ones we get all the time, but we surely remember the ones that we don't get, because you have to learn from that so it doesn't keep happening. And that's all part of looking at the hours, tracking the hours that you work and saying, okay, was I productive? I've heard agents tell, I work 40, 50 hours a week. And I'll say to them, if I followed you around for those 40 hours, how many of them were really dedicated to real estate? And you'll find out maybe they had 15 hours that were dedicated to real estate, and the rest of it was, just wasted. Producers, they don't waste time. And once they know what those numbers are, part of my job is to hold them to it, is to say, okay, what did you do? Well, I didn't quite get that done this week. Why? What did you replace it with? If you ever want to look at what was important to you yesterday, just look at what you did. That was the most important thing you wanted to do. Because we always get done the things we absolutely want to get done. So I think the numbers is a big part of time management.
And those who are newer in the field, like we said before, don't know what they should be doing. I don't know. What do I do? I'm going to work 40 hours this week, whatever it might be. What should I be doing? With the extra time, if I don't have appointments made, should I be going to that networking group tomorrow morning at 7:00? Should I be going to that fundraiser that I got invited to that's typically $150 a ticket, but they invited me? Should I be doing that? Should I be working a little bit of social media? Just, let's say I have 1,000, 1,500 followers or fans, whatever it might be. They may know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody else. Is that all part of it?
Yeah, I think it is. And I think part of it is also the fact that, when you say they don't know, so they'll just go and do anything. I wasn't going to do this, but I will because it's you. If every person you work with walked in and had a sign hanging around their neck, and the sign said, I'll work with you for the next 4 months, but I'm never going to buy a house, ever. You can take me to lunch. You can buy me dinners. Doesn't matter. I will never buy a house. If that's what the sign said, would you work with that person? Probably not, right? And yet agents do. Why? Because they never see the sign.
Yeah. Okay.
If we start asking them questions, we can figure out what the sign would have said. And then we don't invest our time in that so that we can do it someplace more productive.
As a salesperson in any field, the most important thing, as I've learned, I don't do sales. There's a little bit of sales connected in part of what I do in terms of marketing, is asking questions.
Oh, yeah.
Always ask questions. Of course, you're going to listen, but you're qualifying these people. You'll know right away if you ask the right questions. What are they? That comes in your system.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what the systems do. They help you with that. So,
wow. Ring the fiddler bell right there. Play the note. There it is. That is key. That is key. Who wants to waste time if it's not going to produce something? Okay, it's great to socialize a little bit here and there, but if it's, and you know what I feel too, go with your intuition. You probably know it's not going to turn into something. You're hoping it is because
Right.
maybe they're very successful in whatever field they are, but deep down inside, something says, that's not, we're not going to connect. We shared a lunch or whatever, but pre-screening with the right questions. Mike, how do we connect with you?
Best way for me is just go MikeFiddler.com. That's the website right up in the top right corner. I got a link. All I got to do is click the link. I'll give you a free 30-minute coaching call and go from there. That's the easiest way.
Love it. If you're in the industry, why would you want to waste time? I want to know the secrets. I want to move and get going. I got my license. I should be making money with this. And it seems easy enough once you know the system.
It's simple, but not necessarily easy. If you do the right things, you'll make money. Doesn't mean it's easy, but it is simple to get it started. So,
Mike, great talking with you. Love all the insight and looking forward next time we talk.
thanks again, Steve. Looking forward to next time. Bye-bye.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.